In my first days as a congressman, I had to deal with a hot issue. The Soil Conservation Service planned to construct a series of dams that would plug up the Cadron Creek. It was a beautiful, free-flowing stream in the heart of my district. I walked, rode, canoed, and flew all over the areas covered by the project. Most farmers concerned about flooding were in favor of the dams, but the environmental community was dead set against it. After a lot of thought and several public hearings, I decided to oppose the project, and it was a good decision because today outfitters provide canoes and provisions to float the Cadron Creek, and there's good fishing there, and the many caves and bluffs and pinnacles offer spectacular scenery. Soon after the Cadron Creek issue, I faced another challenge. The controversial Alaska Lands Bill, a historic measure that would designate millions of acres as wilderness. I voted for the bill, and just before leaving office, President Carter signed the bill into law, and a noted environmentalist said this: "The Alaska Lands Act set aside more wild country than had been preserved anywhere in the world up to that time. And," he said, "it stood as a ringing validation of the best of what the conservation movement had stood for." I agree, but the best thing I did as a member of Congress was to introduce and pass the Arkansas Wilderness Act. In April of 1983, I introduced a bill to designate Flatside, about 10,800 acres in Perry and Saline counties, as wilderness. I said at the time that I wanted to include 10 other beautiful areas, and so shortly thereafter I enlarged my bill to take them in. Before too long, I had opposition within my own delegation. John Paul Hammersmith and Bill Alexander sided with Burl Anthony to co-sponsor a much smaller bill, one backed by the Forest Service. At that point, the Arkansas wilderness legislation was deadlocked in the House of Representatives, and Senators Bumpers and Pryor had yet to take action. Even so, the Arkansas Democrat newspaper reported that I was gaining ground, and I was. I got endorsements from pro-business groups such as the Little Rock Chamber and the Arkansas Industrial Development Commission. Then, on the last day of the 1983 session, Senator Bumpers and Pryor introduced a wilderness bill, S. 2125. It was a duplicate of my bill. I now had Senate support for my House bill. In February of 1984, on the campus of the University of Arkansas in Little Rock, Bumpers and I heard 130 witnesses, and most of them supported our bills. Interestingly, Congressman French Hill, who was then a legislative aide to Senator John Tower, persuaded Tower to endorse our bill. And that was an unusual step to take for an out-of-state senator. Support grew. The Arkansas Gazette and the Pine Bluff Commercial endorsed our bill, as did many other news outlets. It was finally approved by Congress in August of 1984, and by then I was running for a seat in the United States Senate. So I urged President Reagan to sign the bill. He did, and it became law on October the 19th, 1984. I must add this. The Arkansas Conservation Coalition worked tirelessly to pass the Arkansas Wilderness Act, and when it was done, they urged Susan Morrison, a famous wildlife artist, to give me an artist's proof of an etching titled Flatside Wilderness. It is a treasure, and it's hung in my office ever since. John Muir, a hero to environmentalists, said this: "Everybody needs beauty as well as bread, places to play in and pray in, where nature may heal and give strength to the body and soul." I agree.